Imagine for a moment that you've spent months, maybe years, trying to navigate the impossible terrain of a relationship that never felt quite right. You bent yourself into shapes you didn't even know existed just to keep the peace, to avoid the explosion, to maintain some fragile illusion of harmony. And the more you gave, the more it seemed to disappear into a bottomless pit of entitlement and manipulation. When a narcissist begins to lose control over someone they once dominated, it doesn't result in a graceful retreat or a mature acceptance of boundaries. Instead, it triggers something deep, primitive, and vindictive within them, what psychologists refer to as a narcissistic injury. This is not a minor emotional bruise. It's a wound to their very identity, to the grandiose image they've spent years constructing and desperately defending. To understand why this happens, you have to look at what control really means to a narcissist. It's not just about power in the conventional sense. It's about regulation of their fragile self-worth. You are not a person to them in the way most people experience relationships. You are an extension of their ego, a living prop in their internal drama. As long as you play the role they assign to you, everything appears stable. But when you stop playing, when you step out of that role, or worse, start setting boundaries and asserting independence, they experience it not as rejection, but as annihilation. That might sound extreme, but it's accurate. The narcissist's self-image is not built on a solid foundation. It's a house of cards propped up by external validation, image maintenance, and the illusion of superiority. The moment someone close to them, especially someone they once manipulated with ease, pulls away, it doesn't just bruise their ego. It threatens to collapse the entire structure. And so the narcissistic injury is born. You're no longer a compliant source of narcissistic supply. You've stopped giving them what they crave: attention, admiration, fear, obedience, or chaos. Instead, you've become something dangerous, a reflection of their failure to control, to dominate, to be seen as perfect. They interpret your withdrawal not as a personal choice, but as an act of betrayal, of disrespect, of injustice. In their mind, they were the victim all along. The psychological mechanism behind this is rooted in their deep inability to process shame. Most people, when confronted with loss or rejection, might feel hurt, but eventually accept responsibility or adjust their behavior. Narcissists, however, are allergic to introspection. They don't reflect, they deflect. And when control slips through their fingers, the emotions they experience aren't just hurt or confusion. It's rage, raw, disproportionate, and often hidden beneath a calm surface. They don't show it immediately, but it simmers. This is because the loss of control isn't just inconvenient. It threatens the grand narrative they've crafted about themselves. That they are the hero, that they are the victim, that they are always right. So what do? They respond in ways that reassert their dominance, covertly or overtly. Sometimes it's through subtle sabotage, sometimes through blatant attacks. But it always starts with the injury. That psychological wound that tells them, you lost control, you failed. And failure to a narcissist is intolerable because it exposes them. It shows the cracks in the mask. They can't sit with that feeling, so they project it outward. They make it your fault. They rewrite the story so that you were the unstable one, the ungrateful one, the one who changed. They find a new audience, a new supply, someone to validate their version of events. What makes this phase so dangerous is its invisibility. On the surface, the narcissist might appear calm, reasonable, even charming. But underneath, they're crafting a new strategy, one that will protect their image at any cost. The narcissistic injury doesn't fade with time, it festers, and it fuels everything that comes next. They may begin to spread misinformation, twist the truth, or provoke you into reacting so they can point and say, see, this is who they really are. Every move is designed to restore their sense of superiority, to punish you for daring to defy them, and to erase any perception that they ever lost control in the first place. It's not a rational response. It's not something grounded in reality or fairness. It's a defensive maneuver driven by deep-seated insecurity and emotional immaturity. And once that injury is triggered, the narcissist becomes consumed with restoring balance, not actual balance, but the illusion of control, of dominance, of moral high ground. They don't seek resolution. They seek retribution. They don't want peace. They want to win at any cost. When a narcissist realizes they can no longer control you, the dynamic of the relationship shifts dramatically. You're no longer useful in the way you once were. You've seen behind the curtain, recognized the manipulation, and taken steps to detach, emotionally, mentally, or even physically. And once that control is broken, they often move to their final, most damaging tactic, character assassination. This isn't an emotional outburst or an impulsive act. It's calculated, deliberate, and designed to destroy your credibility and isolate you from support. They can't control you anymore, so they seek to control how others see you. This shift happens quickly in some cases, slowly in others. But the moment the narcissist realizes their influence over you has weakened, their focus turns outward. The goal is no longer to make you comply. It's to make others believe that your rejection of them was unjustified, cruel, or irrational. They begin constructing a new narrative, one where they are the misunderstood victim, and you are unstable, abusive, selfish, or disloyal. The closer someone was to you or to the narcissist, the more important it becomes to corrupt that connection. Your friends, your family, your coworkers, even mutual acquaintances, all become targets of subtle influence or blatant manipulation. What makes this tactic so dangerous is its plausibility. Narcissists are often skilled storytellers. They know how to craft believable lies wrapped in half-truths. They don't come out swinging with absurd accusations right away. Instead, they sow doubt. They start small, passive comments, feigned concern. I don't know what's going on with them lately, or I've tried everything, but they've just changed. These small remarks accumulate over time, painting a picture of someone who is unstable or toxic, when in reality, all you've done is set boundaries and refuse to be controlled. This tactic serves several purposes. First, it punishes you. It's a form of revenge for daring to break free of their influence. If they can't control your behavior, they'll try to control the consequences you face. They want you to feel isolated, doubted, even paranoid. Second, it preserves their image. Narcissists rely heavily on external validation. They can't stand the idea of others seeing them as flawed or abusive. By destroying your reputation, they protect their own. And third, it acts as a deterrent. It sends a message to anyone else in their orbit. This is what happens when you cross me. It's a warning disguised as a story. What's especially insidious is how they tailor their approach depending on the audience. To sympathetic listeners, they may cry and speak in vulnerable tones. To more analytical individuals, they may present themselves as logical and concerned. The lies are customized for maximum effect. They may even use your actual flaws, because everyone has them, as evidence of a larger, fabricated pattern. If you were anxious, now you're emotionally unstable. If you were assertive, now you're aggressive. If you ever lost your temper, even once, they'll make that the centerpiece of their narrative. The truth gets twisted, and you become the villain in a story you didn't write. This character assassination is not just about social reputation. It can seep into professional spaces, family systems, and even legal proceedings. If the narcissist has access to shared communities or resources, they may begin a campaign of subtle sabotage. Suddenly, you're being left out of meetings, avoided at gatherings, or questioned by people who used to trust you. You may not even know it's happening at first. The damage is often silent, occurring behind closed doors and over quiet conversations. And when you finally realize what's been said, the instinct to defend yourself is strong, but complicated. Because the narcissist has already laid the groundwork, any protest from you can be framed as guilt, defensiveness, or instability. They've built the trap in advance. The emotional toll of this is profound. Not only are you recovering from the manipulation and abuse you endured, but now you're faced with a secondary betrayal, the rewriting of your story in real time. And the narcissist plays the role so convincingly, people may believe them. You find yourself trying to explain things that should never have needed defending. The more you talk, the more you feel like you're falling into their script. It's exhausting, and that's by design. The goal is to wear you down, to make you doubt your version of events, to isolate you from anyone who might support your healing. The attack on your character isn't just personal, it's strategic. It's the final, dirty move when they realize they've lost what mattered most to them, control over you. Once a narcissist loses direct control over someone, They rarely walk away quietly. What typically follows is a shift in strategy, a transition from overt manipulation to covert sabotage. This is where the smear campaign begins to take center stage. They can no longer reach you through intimidation, charm, guilt, or seduction, so they begin to target your reputation instead. The manipulation doesn't stop, it just changes form. Instead of controlling your actions, they now aim to influence how others perceive you. They recruit people, knowingly or unknowingly, into their version of the story, twisting the narrative to turn others against you while maintaining their own image as the wronged party. These smear campaigns can take on many different forms, depending on the narcissist's personality, level of influence, and access to your social or professional circles. Sometimes it's subtle, almost unnoticeable at first. They drop hints in conversations, express false concern, or ask leading questions designed to plant suspicion. Have you noticed they've been acting strange lately? Or, I tried to help, but they pushed me away. Other times, it's direct and aggressive. Accusations, half-truths, and complete fabrications designed to make you look like the toxic one. Regardless of the style, the intention is always the same: to isolate you, discredit you, and reassert dominance through public opinion. What makes this tactic particularly insidious is how calculated it is. Narcissists often start preparing for the smear campaign long before the relationship officially ends. They know that control might eventually slip, so they begin planting seeds early, portraying themselves as the reasonable one, the patient one, the self-sacrificing one. They subtly frame you as unpredictable, overly emotional, or unstable. That way, when you eventually draw a boundary, distance yourself, or call out their behavior, they already have a narrative in place. Your reaction becomes part of the evidence. It's a setup, and you're walking into it unaware. This kind of psychological warfare works not because it's entirely believable, but because it's often based on partial truths. The narcissist takes small pieces of real events and spins them in a way that fits their agenda. If you lost your temper once after months of provocation, they highlight that one moment as proof of your volatility. If you started isolating yourself to protect your mental health, they frame it as you being antisocial or unstable. The truth becomes malleable in their hands, distorted and weaponized. And because they often present these things calmly, even sympathetically, they're hard to refute without looking defensive or reactive. This covert manipulation extends beyond words. It includes orchestrated scenarios where you're provoked privately, then exposed publicly. The narcissist may act cruel or dismissive behind closed doors, then play the charming, supportive role in front of others. If you react emotionally to their private abuse, they'll use your reaction as public evidence of your supposed instability. It's a kind of emotional entrapment where every reaction you have is used against you, and every attempt to set the record straight makes you look less credible. The narcissist builds a false reality, and you become the character in their script without ever consenting to the role. The people they draw into this campaign, the so-called flying monkeys, are often unaware of the manipulation they're part of. Some are loyal to the narcissist because of shared history, charisma, or fear. Others are simply confused, unable to make sense of conflicting stories, and end up siding with the person who seems more confident, more composed, or more consistent. Narcissists are masters of impression management. They know how to appear calm and logical when it serves them. Meanwhile, the person they're targeting often looks distressed, anxious, or angry. Understandable reactions to betrayal and public humiliation, but reactions that are easily framed as instability. Over time, this campaign can erode your relationships, your sense of safety, and even your identity. You start second guessing yourself. You wonder who believes the lies and who sees through them. You may find yourself explaining or defending things that shouldn't need explaining. The emotional burden is heavy, not just because of what's being said, but because of how alone it can make you feel. And that isolation is intentional. It's not just about turning others against you. It's about wearing you down until you question your own truth. This form of manipulation thrives in the shadows. It doesn't rely on direct confrontation. It operates through whispers, subtle glances, and private messages. It's not designed to resolve conflict. It's designed to rewrite the story entirely, with the narcissist as the misunderstood hero or victim, and you as the unstable antagonist. And because it's done so covertly, it's hard to fight back without looking like you're making it up or overreacting. One of the most deceptive and effective tactics a narcissist uses when they lose control is assuming the role of the victim. This isn't an accidental shift in identity. It's a conscious strategic maneuver. When their manipulation no longer works on you, they don't accept accountability or reflect on their behavior. Instead, they flip the narrative. They begin presenting themselves as the one who was wronged, mistreated, or abandoned. In doing so, they divert attention away from their actions and create a new lens through which others see the situation. Suddenly, the person who manipulated, lied, and controlled is now the misunderstood, heartbroken, or betrayed individual. It's psychological sleight of hand, and it works more often than people like to admit. This role reversal is deeply confusing for those around them. Narcissists are often skilled at eliciting sympathy. They know how to present themselves in a way that appears vulnerable, remorseful, or emotionally wounded. They talk about how much they gave, how hard they tried, how deeply they were hurt. They might even cry, show signs of emotional breakdown, or act lost and confused. It seems genuine, and because people often assume that vulnerability equals honesty, it becomes difficult to challenge. What makes this more effective is that their version of events is often delivered calmly and with emotional control, while you, the actual victim, may be visibly upset, angry, or overwhelmed. The narcissist appears reasonable. You look unstable. That's the trap. They'll tell people you left them when they were at their lowest. They'll say you changed, became cold, started treating them unfairly for no reason. They'll express sadness over how the relationship ended, how they were blindsided, how they did everything they could to make it work. And if they're especially strategic, they'll admit to small faults to appear more credible. I wasn't perfect, but I always loved them. Or, I made mistakes, but I never deserved this. These carefully curated statements make them seem honest, self-aware, and hurt. But the context is completely erased. There's no mention of the emotional abuse, the gaslighting, the lies, or the manipulation that led you to finally pull away. Those details are left out because they disrupt the victim narrative. The danger of this tactic lies in how quickly it reshapes the social landscape. People who once supported you begin to shift. They hear the narcissist's version of events and, lacking context, start to empathize. You may notice friends pulling away, mutual contacts going silent, or even direct messages from people questioning your decisions. It's subtle at first, but the shift is real. The narcissist has cast themselves as the protagonist in a tragedy, and you've been assigned the role of antagonist. They don't need everyone to believe them. Just enough people to create doubt, to destabilize your support network, and to give their story credibility. Another layer to this tactic is how they use shared experiences or private moments as emotional currency. They reference your past struggles, personal vulnerabilities, or moments of conflict to justify their victimhood. If you ever confided in them, those words may now be twisted and used against you. They've always had issues with trust, becomes a subtle accusation. They grew up with a lot of chaos, becomes a way to question your emotional stability. It's not a direct attack, it's all wrapped in concern. But the message is clear: you were the problem all along. They suffered through it, they stayed. And now they're hurting because you finally left. What makes this manipulation so difficult to counter is that it isn't just based on lies, it's based on performance. Narcissists don't just tell people they're victims. They become the victim in the eyes of others through their tone, body language, and emotional delivery. They know how to appear shattered, calm, reflective, or even apologetic in just the right measure. They anticipate the questions others might have and already have answers prepared. They paint a picture so vivid and so emotionally charged that it overrides facts. People respond to emotions more than logic, and narcissists exploit this truth masterfully. Meanwhile, you're left trying to navigate the fallout. You're defending yourself against accusations you didn't expect, watching relationships you once valued slip away, and trying to find words that don't make you sound bitter or vengeful. Because the more passionately you try to explain, the more it reinforces the narcissist's portrayal of you as reactive or unstable. It's a no-win scenario unless the people around you are emotionally intelligent enough to recognize manipulation and look deeper. Unfortunately, many aren't, and that's precisely what the narcissist is counting on. When a narcissist can no longer control you directly, one of the most dangerous and often overlooked strategies they employ is isolation. This is not just about removing you from others physically. It's about slowly and systematically dismantling your support system so that you feel alone, confused, and emotionally dependent. Isolation becomes a tool for punishment, for revenge, and for maintaining psychological dominance from a distance. If they can't manipulate you through charm or fear anymore, they'll attempt to ensure that no one else sees your side of the story or offers you the clarity and reassurance needed to stay grounded in your truth. This kind of isolation rarely looks obvious. It's not about locking you in a room or demanding you stop speaking to certain people outright. That kind of blatant control would be easy to recognize and resist. Instead, it's subtle. It begins with whispers and rumors. It takes shape through carefully crafted stories told to those closest to you, friends, family, coworkers. These narratives are designed to make others question your motives, your stability, or your character. People begin to distance themselves, sometimes without even realizing why. They don't confront you directly. They just become colder, more passive, less available. The narcissist has inserted just enough doubt to corrode those connections without needing to say anything overtly cruel. The narcissist frames this manipulation as concern. They might reach out to mutual contacts and say things like, "I'm worried about them," or "I just hope they're okay." It sounds caring on the surface, but the subtext is damaging. It plants the idea that something is wrong with you, that you're unstable or volatile. Suddenly, people you trusted are second-guessing you, avoiding hard conversations or retreating from your life altogether. They don't know what to believe, and in the absence of clear facts, they default to the person who seems calm and composed. That person is the narcissist who has rehearsed this performance well. In some cases, the narcissist goes a step further by actively turning people against each other. They'll tell one version of events to one person and a slightly different version to another, knowing that confusion creates disconnection. People begin to question not only you but also each other. Trust breaks down within your circle. The narcissist thrives in that chaos because it keeps them at the center while weakening the bonds between everyone else. They want to be the point of contact, the voice people go to for updates, the filter through which the narrative flows. The more fractured your support system becomes, the easier it is for them to maintain control from a distance. Social media is often weaponized in this process. The narcissist may post vague, emotionally charged messages, share pictures that tell a curated story, or engage in public interactions designed to reinforce their victim narrative. They want people to see them as thriving, innocent, misunderstood. Meanwhile, if you speak out or try to defend yourself, you're seen as the one causing drama or refusing to let go. The narcissist doesn't need to attack you directly. They just need to create an environment where you're portrayed as unreliable or overreactive, and then let the silence around you do the rest of the work. Isolation also extends inward. As your external world becomes more uncertain, your internal world begins to spiral. You start questioning your perceptions, wondering if you're overreacting or imagining things. This is a direct result of the gaslighting that often precedes the isolation. The narcissist has likely spent months or years eroding your sense of self, making you doubt your instincts and training you to defer to their version of reality. So when people begin to pull away and the narcissist assumes the role of victim publicly, you may feel like you're the one falling apart. That's exactly where they want you, confused, unsupported, and vulnerable. In the most toxic cases, the narcissist will even try to infiltrate your healing spaces. They might reach out to therapists, mutual support networks, or community groups you're part of, offering their side of the story in a way that seems genuine and well-meaning. They want to control the narrative wherever it travels. If they can't get to you directly anymore, they'll try to get to the people you turn to for help. This level of interference is profoundly violating, not just because of the betrayal involved, but because it attempts to infect even your path to recovery with doubt and shame. This isolation, isn't just a byproduct of narcissistic abuse. It's a calculated move. It serves multiple functions. At once, it punishes you for leaving. It secures their image, and it discourages others from following your lead. It's psychological warfare disguised as miscommunication, concern, or bad luck. And by the time most people recognize what's happening, the damage has already spread through the very relationships they depended on for strength. When a narcissist loses the ability to control you directly, one of their most insidious tactics is to take the truth, your truth, shared truths, objective truths, and twist it. They don't abandon reality entirely, they weaponize it. This is not the use of blatant lies alone, although those are often part of the picture. What makes this tactic so effective is the strategic use of partial truths, distortions, and carefully curated fragments of reality that serve a false narrative. The narcissist understands that outright lies can be easily disproven, but twisted truths are harder to detect, harder to challenge, and even harder to defend against without sounding dishonest or defensive. This tactic often begins with something you've said or done, something real but taken out of context or exaggerated. A private conversation gets retold in a way that changes its meaning. An emotional reaction is described without the events that provoked it. A disagreement becomes a story of your irrationality. Because the story contains a kernel of truth, it becomes difficult to dismiss. People hear what sounds like a reasonable account, and even if they know you well, they may start to question your side. The narcissist knows this. They rely on ambiguity, on selective memory, on emphasizing certain details while ignoring others. In many cases, the distortion is presented not with anger, but with concern or disappointment. This is part of the manipulation. They may say, "I'm not trying to make them look bad, I'm just being honest." Or, "I wish things hadn't gone this way, but people deserve to know what happened." These statements disarm the listener, making the narcissist appear transparent and sincere. But behind the performance is an agenda to rewrite the narrative in their favor, to cast doubt on your integrity, and to subtly question your version of events without taking direct responsibility for doing so. This strategy is especially damaging because it manipulates perception at a fundamental level. Reality itself becomes unstable. The people around you begin to see a distorted version of you, and when you try to explain, you may come across as defensive or paranoid. You're not just dealing with a lie, you're dealing with a truth that has been hollowed out and reshaped. This forces you to constantly explain and clarify yourself, which is exhausting and can make you appear obsessive or unstable. That perception, in turn, reinforces the narcissist's narrative. It's a feedback loop they've engineered, and it works. What adds another layer to this tactic is how the narcissist uses your own words against you. If you ever admitted to mistakes, insecurities, or vulnerabilities, as most people do in close relationships, those things are now extracted and repackaged as proof that you were the problem. Statements you made in trust are pulled out of their original context and placed into a new one that suits the narcissist's story. They may say, even they admitted they were difficult, or they told me they struggle with control, implying a confession that fits the narrative they've already constructed. The intimacy you once shared becomes ammunition. In public or professional settings, this manipulation can take a more subtle form. The narcissist may present themselves as calm, reflected, and reasoned, while painting you as dramatic or unstable. They don't need to say anything overtly cruel. They just need to frame the story so that others begin to question your reliability. This may include strategic silence, letting others come to their own conclusions without directly accusing you. Silence, when paired with selective disclosure, becomes a powerful tool. People begin to fill in the blanks on their own, and those assumptions tend to align with the version the narcissist is quietly encouraging. Over time, the cumulative effect of these distortions is profound. You may begin to feel isolated not just socially, but mentally. You start questioning your memory, your intentions, your actions. You replay conversations in your mind, wondering if maybe you did say something wrong, or if maybe you are being too sensitive. This internal erosion is one of the narcissist's goals. If they can't control you outwardly, they aim to control your inner world. By warping the truth, they create a reality where you doubt your own perceptions And that self-doubt becomes a form of continued psychological control. This form of manipulation often continues long after the relationship has ended. The narcissist keeps the distorted narrative alive through subtle reinforcement, through occasional comments, or through continued influence over mutual connections. Even if you've moved on, you may find yourself having to answer for things that never actually happened, or at least not in the way they're being described. This keeps you tethered to the narcissist's version of the story, even when you're physically free from their presence.